Greetings. We are Team 2, consisting of Pauline Elgore, John Carter, and Byron Bundy. Today, we will be discussing the exciting new mission by NASA titled Project Artemis. Project Artemis was first conceived of in 2005 and formally established in 2017, with the first test flights taking place this year in 2022. Unlike previous lunar missions, this crew will contain women as well as individuals from underrepresented racial and ethnic groups, and will be the first ever mission to put women, African Americans, and Indian Americans on the surface of the Moon. The overarching purpose of the mission is to inspire future generations of astronauts, to make new scientific discoveries, and to obtain new sources of revenue. More specifically, the plan of action is to use a return trip to the Moon to study the possibility of long-term settlement on the Moon and to gather data for manned missions to Mars in the future. In order to achieve any of the long-term mission objectives like extended human settlement of the lunar surface and future manned missions to Mars, the first trip back to the Moon must be successful, and that involves a great deal of organization and effective project management. To achieve their mission objectives, at a minimum, NASA will need to plan the mission, hire and train the astronauts, purchase a reusable spacecraft from SpaceX, plot a course to the Moon and back, launch the spacecraft, deliver astronauts safely to the lunar surface, retrieve the astronauts from the lunar surface, and return them to Earth safely, all while gathering data crucial for future missions. With that, I will hand the presentation over to Byron to talk about why this project is so interesting to our team.
Thanks, John. Our entire team has an interest in this moon landing project, but for different reasons. John Carter, from the Disney movies, was a man of Mars. Our John Carter isn't from Mars, but he has an interest and affinity for the technology and process of any launch to space. Pauline thinks these types of projects are astonishing, and she has a true love for space and the moon. I simply don't believe we've ever been to the moon and would like to see how this goes to either change or confirm my views. In all reality, this is a major project for our country and the world. We haven't been back to the moon since the Apollo mission in 1969. As John mentioned, this mission is instrumental in determining the possibility of settlements on other planets and understanding the resources that lie outside of our planet. This mission is also special because the crew that will be putting feet to moon include members of minority groups. The crew will include an African American, Indian American, and female astronaut. Including this diversity is a major moment for all groups represented in our country as a whole. This project began almost 12 years ago, with the planning phase beginning in 2005. It was formally established in 2017, and this year, 2022, will be the first uncrewed test flight. 2024 will be the first crewed test flight, and by 2025, we want to see the first crewed lunar landing, which upon completion and return back to Earth will be the project's end. Obviously, going to the moon is no cheap adventure, but how much does this project actually cost? The original projected cost was $10 billion for the SLS rocket, as well as $2.5 million for 5 launches, which would make them about $500,000 each. The actual cost to this point has been $20 billion for the SLS rocket, and the launches have jumped to $4 billion each, costing $20 billion. The total program cost is at $93 billion by the time our astronauts return to Earth, assuming there are no more delays or malfunctions that will end up costing even more money.
Next, we'll talk about the CSR impacts of this project. First, economic. Many years in the making, the Artemis project will be the catalyst that propels space as an industry. It is estimated that by 2030, the entire space industry will be valued at $805 billion. The Artemis project is first and foremost a scientific mission, but it will pave the way into applications for business expansion. All of this equates to money bolstering the global economy and creating countless jobs in this new industry. To support this growth, there will be demand for a new skilled workforce. Socially, this launch will reignite the USS fascination with space and exploration. Being a US led expedition, it will be a source of pride for many Americans to know that we are once again leading the globe in meaningful innovations. The successful launch and landing on the moon will likely inspire new generations of Americans to study and engage with the sciences. All 16 international partners will be represented on this mission, working together in a global partnership. Environmentally, the scientific breakthroughs to be had from this mission will open up new opportunities to improve life here on Earth, as well as learning how to sustain life outside of Earth. The study of the moon and the eventual landing on Mars will unlock valuable information that will move the sciences forward. There are many lessons in project management to be learned from this mission. Here are our team's observations. Safety and quality are paramount, particularly in a mission like this. The Artemis 1 launch has been canceled and rescheduled 3 times so far, with the next attempts rescheduled for November 16th. There are 2 additional backup dates planned, and no doubt this was part of NASA's risk management plan and was factored in terms of both budget and timing. The launch of Artemis 2 was originally slated for 2024 and has since been pushed out. According to a NASA spokesperson, 2024 was never really feasible. The original date was given under pressure from the Trump administration to make it happen. New estimates have relaxed and is planned for no earlier than 2025. As mentioned earlier, the cost of the project is overrun and the cost of the launches alone have quadrupled. This makes us wonder if appropriate escalation costs were considered and includes factors such as rising costs due to inflation. Influences to the project can come from competition. It is believed that the Chinese government is aggressively planning human presence on the moon as well. It is the position of NASA that the US needs to be back to the moon first. This certainly is influencing time estimates and even possibly the scope. We have some insight from an internal senior member from the mission. In an interview with Mike Serafin, the Artemis missions manager, he breaks down what it takes to get a project like this done. Here are some of the lessons we can all learn from his experience. First, Mike stresses the importance of the plan. He is quoted as saying, "It's the planning that prepares you. It prepares the team. It sets expectations. You could not possibly imagine every single scenario that could go wrong, but what you can do is prepare for the likely ones and then to have a strategy in place as to how you're going to manage it for the unlikely ones or the unforeseen ones." The entire scope of the Artemis mission is broken down into smaller, more manageable phases. Each launch is executed, and the success of that launch helps build up to the next one. The entire project is not tackled all at once. As the lead project manager, Mike has the final say when it comes to accepting risk. Understanding the risk profile for each stage and the possible alternatives helps aid Mike when making decisions. This all comes down to having a high level of trust with the team, having efficient communication, and knowing who has the information needed. With something like a detailed WBS and regular status updates, something as complex as a rocket launch can be accomplished. Once written, the project is per the script, and each phase can clearly understand when they have the green light to continue. We hope you have enjoyed our presentation and learning more about the Artemis mission. Thank you.